On January 5th, about 6 p.m. that night, I was actually sitting down watching The Pharmacist. It's a documentary on Netflix, and as I was watching it, Dan had just found out that his son was killed by a drug dealer. And I looked at my best friend and I said, I couldn't imagine if I lost Preston. I've already lost one son. As soon as I say that, my phone rang, and it's Preston's mother, and she said, Preston's gone. And I said, gone where? Like he left somewhere. She said, no, I found him dead this afternoon. He had died. And he sat there, he had died in his sleep or in his chair with his arm waving by one side and a Whataburger malt in one hand. And of course, like everybody else, we didn't know what was happening. And it was probably 8, 10 weeks later, we got the toxicology report, and he had 12 milligrams of fentanyl in his system. And that's it. Nothing else in his system. So it was 100% fentanyl in this pill. And so, total shock to me. It changed our lives. And of course, I was in Phoenix, and I flew back home. I was living there part-time, flew back to the Dallas area, and we did the funeral and everything, but it just, like all of us, shook our world. We didn't know what to think, what to do, and I just rocked my world. So, growing up, his mother and I divorced when he was 1. So we split custody, joint custody, and we fought like most divorced parents do the first couple of years. And I think when he was probably about 3 or 4 years old, we started getting along. We split custody. I traveled all the time, but when I came home, I was with him. Whether I was in Seattle, wherever I was, when it was my time, I was with him. He was kind of a loner in a way, but he liked to play with his toys and Lord of the Rings, all that junk. And growing up, he was a normal kid, just a very normal kid. And to be honest, what happened is in high school, he met his high school sweetheart. And they were in love. They were always at my house, swimming, just whatever they wanted, playing, having fun. And that's and he had tried drugs. I'm not going to lie. He tried marijuana. In fact, he's told me he tried everything. And I always said, where'd you get it? And he said, well, duh, high school. He said, you can get everything at high school except cigarettes and alcohol because you have to be a certain age. And I said, oh, that's right. They don't card you. The drug dealers don't card you. I forgot about that. So, he tried everything, but nothing really took except marijuana, mostly those THC cartridges that everybody sees. But then what happened is college came around, and his high school sweetheart decided to move off and go to Texas Tech. So that rocked his world. And that's kind of when he went downhill. But then he followed her out there for 1 semester, and she still just wanted to be friends. And he came back, and he was still a little isolated and just didn't know what he wanted to do with his life and all that. But kind of a normal kid, just going through depression. And then COVID hit, and the depression and the isolation, not being able to see friends or anything like that. And that's when I think that he probably took that pill. They bought a pill online or bought it from somebody, and bought it. That was pretty much it. That's one thing I've noticed is that year 2021, so many people died that year, especially that first year after COVID. And it was just, it makes sense. We all get depressed. We're all isolated. And I've talked probably to hundreds of thousands of people, schools, children, whoever it is. And the biggest thing I always say is, we live in a society right now where you can't turn on a TV without a drug commercial on there for a drug that will fix everything. And these kids nowadays, I always say, okay, that drug will fix anything from, erectile dysfunction to overweight to a new disease that pharma has come up with. And so they think a drug will fix everything. So that's what I think happened is maybe that one night he was depressed or he got hurt working out. We were in a challenge to work out and get in shape. Maybe he got hurt and he got a Percocet and bam, but it cost him his life. And that's what I've seen with so many people. So the only thing he was on was Vyvanse for ADHD. And I actually got on to him about not taking it all the time, once daily. And he just said, well, I'll just take it when I need it. The only things that I did notice, I mean, he might have sampled a little bit with maybe pills. I'm guessing now that I look back, because there's days where you want your children to be happy. And if they're kind of depressed and then they're happy all of a sudden, it's like, finally, you're happy. But now I look back and it's like, wait, why was he happy? So, but an addiction problem, no, I never, because I never lost money, never stole money, never, did anything like that, and he spent his money on gaming and movies. So, you know, unless I'm just totally blind, I never saw the addiction problem. I had an addiction problem in the 80s and 90s, so I knew what an addict was like. So, but I never saw that. He drank a litlittle bit. There were some nights where he came home and drank a little too much, but not a raging alcoholic. I mean, I was 21. He was 25 when he died. So, but nothing like that I saw as an addiction problem. So, that first year that he died, I mean, I was Mike Land, and I said, I'm gonna close the border. I'm going to take down the cartel. And I probably used every foul name in the book at every law enforcement agency, every politician that I could think of. So I was that angry person that first year. I drowned myself in a bottle of whiskey constantly, and I was angry until his birthday came around. And that's when I said, you know what? I can do one thing. I'm a father. So I can go out there and at least share his story. And he had just gone to Big Bend National Park with a couple of girls. And when he came back, he said, you know what, Dad, let's go to some of these national parks. And that's when it just hit me. And I laughed because of Van Halen's song Right Now. It was on a couple of days before I went on this journey. It said, right now, don't put it off till tomorrow. And I said, you know what, that's it. I'm going to get in my car. I'm going to drive to 25 national parks. I'm going to ride my bike 7 miles in each park, number of completion in the Bible. Then I'm going to climb to the tallest peak and do a memorial for my son. So I did it. I did it in 9 months. I went to 25 national parks. And then all of a sudden, when I get back, I'm getting politicians calling me. I'm getting law enforcement calling me. And I remember somebody hooked me up with, I don't know if it was Chip Roy, one of the congressmen in Texas. He called and said, I know you're not in my district, but I want to hook you up with this guy named Derek Maltz. And I said, I'm going to give him your number. He's going to call you. When he calls you, don't be scared. He's from New York. He's got this mouth on him like crazy. And so Derek called me, and so we became friends. And, so to answer your question, how am I doing now? I think with what I've been doing for the past 3.5 years of trying to help other people spread the awareness, honestly, it's my therapy. That's my therapy, is to spread the word. And then I look at other families, most of these families, there's hundreds and hundreds of them, thousands, if not many. I always say that there's 450,000 lost since Preston died. That means there's 4.5 million family members that are victims as well, 10 people to each family. So my goal is to let everybody know that these families that are left behind are victims as well. So I try and do what I can for the families, spend time with them, and that's my therapy. So I'm doing good now as long as I'm speaking to somebody about it. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't speak to somebody about fentanyl. And the other big thing that I do is when I got into this, I noticed there's not a lot of men that go out and speak. There's groups of men, but there's not the number of men that there are women. So the first thing I noticed is every time I'd go somewhere and do a speaking engagement, it's me and 5 mothers. And I'm like, where's the husband? Oh, he doesn't want to talk about it, that kind of thing. So, but one thing I've learned is when I lost my first son, we got a divorce, my wife and I at the time. So I just started thinking, you know what? And I started talking to a lot of people. When you lose a child, the divorce rate is sky high. Yeah. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start this group of men that we can get on a Zoom call maybe once a month and just talk and hang out, because you can't go talking to your golf buddy about the death of a child unless you had lost one. So, there's a group of men that we all talk every once in a while. We hang out, we laugh. We don't even have to talk about our death of our children. We can just hang out, and it gives us a venting, because we're men, we're too strong to go to a counselor or a therapist. So I'm just trying to give an outlet. Not that I'm a counselor or a therapist, but just an outlet. So I'm doing better now. It still hurts. It's like everybody else says, it's like an ocean. It comes in waves. So there's good days and bad days. Birthdays are hard. I haven't been to a movie since Preston has died. That was our outlet. We used to go to a movie once a week. I still haven't been to a movie. And any Marvel movie that comes out, Iron Man, I will probably never watch again, just because that was his thing. So. Well, I'll kind of get to how I got to be all over the place. Of course, it was just Texas at the beginning, and speaking at schools, and whoever else will listen, schools, churches, colleges, whatever it was. And it was on January. I don't even remember. Sometime in January at the inauguration. Some friends of mine we were invited to the inauguration. I couldn't make it. I had a previous engagement on Saturday and one on Tuesday, and so I didn't make it. But they were up there at the fentanyl wall at the DEA building, and they were like, "Where's Preston?" And I said, "What do you mean, where's Preston?" And apparently the wall is full. I called Derek and I said, "What's up?" And he goes, "We have a virtual wall now, like a screen or something." And that's when it hit me. I said, "You know what? I've been meaning to do another 25 Preston 7. I did the national parks. And I said, you know what? I want to do something different. We've all had our picture on a billboard or on a poster or something like that. And I'd always seen waterfalls doing the national parks. I said, you know what? I'm going to go to 25 waterfalls in 7 states in 7 weeks. So I just said, I asked online, I said, anybody that wants their child or loved one, submit your photo. And I remember it was Saturday before I left on a Monday. I think I had 100. And then Derek Maltz and then Sarah Carter, who's going to be our drug czar now, she reposted my Twitter or X. And I remember that Sunday night, it was like ding, 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 ding. I mean, I had like 70,000 views. So I got another 200 photos. So I went to the 25 waterfalls, started in Northern California, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, Utah. And when I got back, I decided I still need to do something further. I want to put a book together, dedicate this book. There were 300 people that I named off, which was perfect timing because we lose about 300 a day to fentanyl. So my goal now is over the next year, and kind of why I'm here in Florida is, to meet some of the families. I'm driving everywhere to meet families that I've honored, to thank them, to meet them in person, and to get a picture made with them, and then have the book made. It's going to take me about a year to do it because, we talked earlier, I'm not going to Minnesota in December or January, and I'm not going to Alaska till the spring or summer. So, it's, like in a couple of weeks, I'm going to Vermont to meet with a friend of mine, a fentanyl father up there. First father I ever met. And we're going to go up there, and he lives on the northern border. I live on the southern border. We're going to do a 5K run where the northern border and the southern border meet. And we're going to collaborate together. And so, yeah, I'm all over the place. I wish I wasn't, but I notice that it brings people joy when they can find somebody else to talk to. Everywhere I go, if haven't lost anybody, it's hard to really understand what's going on. Even if you go to a counselor, unless that counselor has lost somebody, they learned it in the book, but how do you get those feelings? And I think it brings people joy when you can sit down and have a conversation with somebody. So yeah, I'm all over the place. So, and I don't know what the next project is. My original goal was to do 25 miles on 7 continents. And that kind of got X'd out because I had planned when I got back from the national parks in 23, I was heading I wanted to go to Antarctica first. Is the warmest month is December, gets up to 0. But then the war in Gaza broke out and I wanted to end in Jerusalem. So bad timing to do the 7 continents. So maybe one day I'll do it to raise awareness. So the one thing that, I've talked to so many families that want to get involved and do something. And it's like, Mike, I see you on stage or see you doing something somewhere. I want to do that. And I said, not everybody has to get on stage. I said, the one thing I do every day is I wake up and, I've got the magnets on my truck of my son. And literally just 2 days ago, I was somewhere in Georgia, and a guy pulls up at the gas station next to me. He said, "What's the forever?" He goes, "How did he die?" And I said, "He died of fentanyl." And he goes, "I'm an ex-SWAT member. And now I'm retired." He goes, the only way people died back then is they shot up too much meth or something like that. I said, well, it's in marijuana now and everything. I've done a fentanyl awareness program at a Taco Bell. I said, I was on an airplane one time and the lady saw my tattoo and she said, the flight attendant, she said, "What's that?" And I said, "My son died of a fentanyl poison." I was talking to her for 20 minutes. She said, "Would you get on the intercom and speak to our passengers?" So for 30 minutes, I got on the intercom and I was doing a fentanyl awareness program, on an airplane. So, and they couldn't leave, which was cool. They had to listen to me. So, and I just tell people that I think our purpose, whether you get up on stage or you do a billboard, whatever it is that you share your story at least once in your life with somebody. And I guarantee you somebody will listen and you will save a life. And I always tell people, whether I just spoke to Allen High School, 7,000 students, second largest high school in the United States. And somebody said, do you think everybody listened? And I said, I don't care if everybody listened. I care that one person went home that day and knows that, wait, this is a poison. It's not a choice. You go to a party. Yeah, don't give me the one with fentanyl. They get it now. So that's the biggest thing that, I can take away. You know, you know it. You go out there, you talk to people and just share your story. That's me in a nutshell. So.